Hi, welcome to the Ambient iPad. Let's make some music. I'm going to do exactly what it says on the tin today. Ambient iPad, Ambient Mellotron. I'm going to use just a few Mellotron sounds and a couple of reverbs to get a big expansive sound. The signal chain for today is the Mellotron M4000D Mini. Its analog output goes into a Focusrite Scarlett 18i8 interface, which then goes into this Anchor USB-C hub, which enables me to send sound and MIDI back and forth to the iPad Pro, as well as to power the iPad at the same time. So because we're doing something big and ambient and just using audio and no looping and overdubs, we'll use GarageBand. I'd like to start a new project. So we'll use voice, turn on monitoring, and again, as I discovered recently, instead of choosing lead vocals and zero everything out under fun, there's a clean setting. So that's what we use, and we're pretty much set from the default perspective. So let's get a few effects going. And then we will sample out some sounds here and come up with a jam. So first thing I want to do, very minor, but put on the Mellotron icon. All right, so we're definitely just going to use the onboard compressor. And let's delete the effect EQ, which I honestly have no idea what the effect EQ on GarageBand does. It doesn't open anything. So if anybody knows, please leave a message in the comments. I've always been curious about that. So we're going to use at least 2 reverbs. I'll leave the first space open for a modulation of some sort. I will leave the last slot open for wider, which, as I mentioned before, is an app I use that's supposed to turn mono into stereo. I only use it like 20% mix, and it just adds a little bit of space, a little bit of stereo sound without being over the top. And I'm always, even though I use GarageBand a lot and I like it, I'm always pointing out the things that I wish that were different. One thing that I do like is the way effects, at least in this view, are, you can look at all the ones you have. I wish you could get more than 4, but you can look at all the ones you have and work with them there. That's where the positives start and kind of stop from an AUV3 perspective, and I'll show that here. You know what, let's start with modulation. I'll use micro pitch, and then I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about, which is, so I open it up and you can't move it around like in other apps, so it's kind of there. You can make it full screen, doesn't really help. And I'll use one of my presets. I'm just going to set things up quickly here. We're going to go through with sounds and actually sample them so we can make sure that we have the sounds and the settings that I want. So let's add some reverb. So Blackhole, definitely. And we'll use the biggest reverb ever, and if not, we'll use one of mine that I created if that doesn't work. One more reverb. I'm going to use Velvet Machine, which just creates a lot of space. And you can go crazy with this. I honestly, do I want the long synthetic? Or let's start with that. We might have to do some tweaking, or I may go to the medium verb. So that's done. Now let's add wider. Wider doesn't always seem to sound while I'm recording, but during playback the effect is applied. Custom, my 20%, and we're done. All right, let's get to some sounds here. Let me go up here. That's big and goes on for a while. One thing I'm not going to use today is strings. I've used strings a lot recently. Let's see how the choir sounds. And let's turn all the reverbs off. Let's start with micro pitch so I can get this down. Not really noticing a big change with that, and we are monitoring. Let me try one of the micro chorus. Here's a chorus. Okay, that I can notice. Maybe it's actually the sound. Let me go to the bass flute. Maybe we'll use that. Want to double. Okay, there's a slight doubling effect there. That's what I want to use. Not really that noticeable because we're in mono right now. Let's turn off. We'll leave micro pitch on. Let's work with Blackhole now. So you can hear that tail goes on for a long time. Maybe even too long. It's going to be hard until I have all the sounds. Let me go back to the choir. So I definitely want to use a choir, and I want to use the flute. I don't know if I'm going to use that flute, though. Okay, this is really big. Let's go to Blackhole. Setting. Let's stick with that for now. Let's go into Velvet Machine and see. Yeah, that's really big. I don't think I need it that big. Let's go to the medium reverb. Back to the flute for a second. Where's the settings here? Let me boost the mix a little. 50%. And let me also boost the time. So, six something. Whoops, not that much. Let's see this. Turn off Blackhole. Oh, that's actually a good point. I'm glad I hit on that because I do this a lot. This will just loop and just keep continually, not overdubbing, but erasing what I did before and adding the new stuff. So I put it on automatic and we'll just get a linear recording going. So let's turn off Blackhole. Blackhole. And Velvet Machine. That we'll start with that with effects. We may have to tweak them as we go. I'm noticing I'm getting a low battery warning on the camera, so we'll do a little edit here, come back and pick the sounds, and then we'll do a big, expansive, ambient type jam. All right, I'm back. Fresh battery in the camera. We've got the effects set up. Let's go through. Actually, I have to add wider back in. After I changed the battery, I figured, oh, I'll save what I did. The interesting thing about GarageBand is that unless you have actually recorded something, it doesn't save. So I set everything up, went back to the project window, and it shows up for 2 seconds and then disappears. One of the idiosyncrasies of GarageBand. All right, so we're back where we were. Yeah, that's big, expansive. Maybe even too big, but I'll see. So as far as sounds, I definitely want to use a chorus. So we use the M4000D voice chorus, which is a combination of the 4-voice female choir and the 4-voice male choir. 4 and 4 is 8, so you get the 8-voice choir. And then I said I wanted to use a flute sound. The M400 has a bass flute, but actually the Chamberlin Music Master, I have mentioned this before as well, that the Chamberlin tapes are of a better quality often than the Mellotron ones because they just used better microphones and sometimes better players, better better studios, so the fidelity is a little better. And part of the licensing deals were that Mellotron actually used some of the original Chamberlain tapes. So the 3 violins, the famous 3 violin sound. So we're going to use the 8-voice choir, and then the Chamberlain flute. This flute has more air, more breath sounds than the other flutes that are available. Really the Mark II flute, which was reused for the M400. And then there's the bass flute, the M400 that we use, I talked about. So that's one sound, and bass clarinet. I like that. Okay, so we'll use the 8-voice choir, we'll use the flute, we'll use the clarinet of the Chamberlain, switch back and forth with the mix knob. I would like one more sound effects, you know, like an intro thing. Celeste 66. Tubular Bells has some sound effects. I think we can do some stuff with that. Structure-wise, let's start with this for sound effects, then we'll do the voice for a pad, and then we'll do the flute and the bass clarinet. Maybe stop at that Celeste sound along the way. I'm not doing overdubs or looping or anything, so even though I said pads, this is going to be one of the more linear jams that I do, which goes from, you know, sound to sound to sound. And again, going to more for the ambient factor here. So we'll try to let sounds ring out. And I think that's pretty much it. So I'm just going to dive right into this. So by just using a couple of reverbs, we got a really, really big expansive soundscape. I just used a few patches from the Mellotron, the tubular bells for the cymbal, the celeste, and the 8-voice choir, and then from the Chamberlin, the flute, and the bass clarinet. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and good luck with your own music.